Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ramblings from the Little Shed. Today's guest, we have Emily DeAngelis. And of course, Rogan is in the house, my hype guy. Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm great. Hi, Holly. Hi, Rogan. So
Hi,
nice to
Emily.
be here.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I remember seeing you up on the screen because we are in the same Writers Guild, although we live miles apart. And I always wondered, who is that woman? And I realized, oh, she's a big deal. She's an author. Well, I thought so. And it wasn't until last fall that we got to know each other a little bit more because we also shared time at the retreat that we went to, the writing retreat
Right.
through Rekindle Creativity.
Absolutely. Yes. That was a
Yep,
great, great retreat.
it
I've heard so
was.
much about it.
It
I
was,
really have.
the setting was fabulous. The leaders were fabulous, and the participants I've heard the word retreatants were fabulous too. So it was a great, it was almost 6 days, 5, 6 days. It was a long
I
one. It was,
know.
Oh,
It
that is a
felt
good
like
chunk of
two.
time. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it probably felt like 2 hours probably.
Yes.
That's how that always
It
goes.
went by fast for sure. Yeah.
It did, but I got to know who Emily was as a person, as a writer, and of course, I was fangirling all weekend, still am. And I'm very I'm very grateful that you are here with us to
Well,
chat
I'm glad.
about, oh, awesome, that we can chat about how your animals, past, present, maybe future,
Future.
have
Ooh.
influence your creativity. So how about we just jump right in and we'll get to all the good stuff. Can you tell us about your animals? And yeah, let's start there.
I'm definitely a cat person, and if I look at my immediate family and my husband's immediate family, we all have the whole extended family, I think, are cat people. It's not that we don't like dogs or appreciate dogs, but we seem to have been really attracted to cats. And I just, as I was preparing to come on today, I just made a list of all the cats that I've had in my life and my husband's family as well. And I have to read you the list because it's the names that I thought were intriguing. So I started as a child, our cat that we begged our father for, and he did finally relent, and he eventually fell in love with our cat. His name was Troubles, the cat, not my father. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
and
you for
then there was
clarifying.
China, Kayla, Nikki, Lola, Pico, Sandy, Dandy, Crystal, and Mitzi. And Pico was, if I had to pick a beloved cat, although I love them all, but Pico was the one we had as our own family with our kids. We had her for 12 or 13 years. She was beloved. And yeah, she was probably the biggest treasure of all the cats. I think just because she was mine and we knew her so well. Um, And you know how cats can get in the middle of everything, whether
Yes.
by design or unintentionally, they're always in the middle of things, but they're great for helping you maintain a creative health as well as the healthiness, just to have that creature there who loves you unconditionally. Right now we're kind of in between. I In 2019, I was helping our daughter move, and she has my grand kitty named Mitzi, and just being in the environment with Mitzi, I have I have allergies, but I also have moderate to severe asthma, and I had a huge asthma attack in 2019.
Oh,
So
no.
we kind of shied away from the next cat, maybe in the future, but definitely short-haired because Pico was a Siamese. She was a highly bred Siamese. We could have used her as a show cat, but we weren't interested in a show cat. We were interested in a cat, a family
Hmm.
cat. So we don't have one now, but I am a grandmother to Mitzi and also to, I think, like 10 rats. My son and his partner have rats. And I have also a list of their names because rats as you may or may not know, they're very, very social. They're lovely.
Hmm.
They're engaging, surprisingly, but they don't live long. They have a short life, relatively speaking. So I've known waffle, eggy, pancake, toast, juniper, parsnip, fern, tara, parsley, and the current batch of boys is rigatoni, orecchiette, and gnocchi. So they've been part of our lives too, not cats, but they've inspired some writing as well. And yeah, so I think they bring a creative calm. Pets bring a creative
Hmm.
calm that I think allow you to, as a writer, to allow me to have the writing. And I had a good friend of mine who's also a wool artist knit a replica of Pico. So I have
Oh,
Pico all the time with me, just in spirit and not in body, but I have this replica. And surprisingly, she looks very much like our Pico. And
that's so special.
yeah, yeah,
I have a comment and a question here. So,
sure.
first of all, your two lists of cats and rats sound like poems, just the way, you
They
you
do. They
that was
do.
fun. That was fun. Now, this replica of the cat, is it like a stuffy? Would that
It,
looks
it
like a cat?
It looks like
Pico?
I'm sure you've seen knitted stuffies,
Yes.
grandma made stuffies. It is knitted, but it's a replica. Like, I sent her pictures of the cat. So because our Pico was a seal point Siamese. Siamese come in a variety of pointed colors. You
Okay.
can have like a chocolate point Siamese, which is then the snout and the ears and the paws and the tip of the tail are all a lovely chocolatey brown. You can have a seal point, which was our cat. It's like a darker, almost a black. It's a really dark, dark brown. And you can also have a lilac point, which they're stunning. When we picked up our cat, we picked her up at a home breeder. So we went into the house, and within 15 minutes, I don't know, 30 kittens joined us in the living room. And there was a lilac point, and his name was Lilac Larry. He was absolutely
Yeah.
lovely, but they were keeping him as a breed to breed later. So they actually picked Pico for us. So this replica has all the right coloring. It's kind of her size and everything.
I was
It's
going to ask if it was the
Yeah,
same. Yeah.
it's a similar size. She was a pretty tiny cat, but she's the one I have, the replica, is maybe just more of a typical sized cat. So yeah, she's a lovely replica, and I talk to her on occasion, which might be a bit weird, but I
Oh,
do.
I have a rubber ducky at my desk. It's a thing for coding where you talk at the rubber ducky, and it helps. So I can only imagine when you're doing creative writing or anything like that, it helps. It really does.
She was, in our lives, we've lost people and our parents and what have you, but she, I was almost shocked at how we felt when Pico died. It was soul shattering, because it's almost like losing a child, because they're so utterly dependent on you.
Hmm.
They love you unconditionally, and yet, they have a shortened lifespan. 13 years was pretty good for such a highly bred feline, but yes, we are definitely cat people, and I guess rat people too. Although I've never really had rats as pets. I just have had them sitting in my pocket, or they go, like, when they take them out, if we're visiting, they're very curious,
Hmm.
and they come up to you, they'll go in your pockets and sort of snuggle in there. So I've had the rats with me, but I've never owned a rat. I don't know anything
Well, I've
about.
never really had any experience with rats other than hearing all of the negative talk. So this is
And
nice to hear
it
that
affected
you
me
make good
too.
pets.
I first met the rats the same year I had that horrible hospital visit for the cat attack. But it was New Year's Eve, and my son and his partner were moving in. It was when they first moved in together, and they got their apartment at the end of the year, and it was New Year's Eve. So my husband and I went to help, and it was cold. So I stayed in our vehicle with the rats. At first, it was like, I don't know, because you get influenced by all the negativity.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
you know what? They all curled up together, It was cool in the car, but not cold. And they all fell asleep. And then when they woke up, they kind of watched me, and it was like, oh, look at this big lady. They were just really curious and lovely little animals, and then got to know them more, of course, once we were visiting and
Mhm.
getting to meet with them. Yeah, they're very, very social, and
Huh.
they're very inquisitive, and they can also be really playful, which they get a
Yeah.
bad rap in Disney. Rats
Rats
do.
get a
Yeah.
bad rap.
Rats
Yeah,
get a bad rap. That's a
mice and
line.
rats. Yeah, absolutely, they get a bad
Yes.
rap.
I had a
So Emily,
friend growing up. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't say. I had a friend. I think he had 2 rats. I don't remember very well because it was a long time ago. I was probably 6 or 7, little older than that. And I remember them being very playful. Like we had a lot of fun with them.
And there's
Um,
usually multiples. You don't usually have one single
yes,
one. So I
I
know
believe he had 2.
my
Yeah.
son, they usually have 3 or 4. Although because they are prone to illness, they've had as few as 2, but generally speaking, they have multiples of them just because
Hmm.
they do better in a grouping.
Yeah.
okay.
I just need to say I love the through lines with the names. that
Yeah.
was wonderful.
A lot of it's food based, I see.
Hmm.
I heard that. Yes.
Animals.
Parsley's my favorite. That's so good.
Yeah. Now I want rigatoni.
Oh
Emily,
yeah.
I know you as a writer and an author. I
Mhm.
don't know if you have other creative mediums, but has Pico or Mitzi or any of them made it into your pieces thus
You
far?
know, I write a lot of cat poetry, so certainly cats have made it into the poetry. I'm an amateur artist, as is my daughter, and my son studied art in university, and we've all recreated at different times the cats in our lives in art. They did a much better job than I, and actually, if the cat, I don't, you saw the social media post I put up for today's conversation. That cat is Mitzi. That's my grandkitty,
Okay.
and my daughter has done beautiful art around Mitzi. So yes, we've all captured them in some way, shape, or form, and I mostly through writing poetry,
Hmm.
and then I've been toying with the idea of bringing cats into my work in progress, which is a young adult novel that takes place across 3 timelines. So the earliest is like around 1898, then the next one is 1955, and then 1988. And what interests me about bringing specifically cats into that is there's a whole different culture about animals across those years, those 88 or 90 years. And only in I would say only in 1988 did we really start to see the emergence of a cat owner or pet owner culture. So I think I'm going to work on that. I think that that's something that intrigues me, is um, having a cat roam through the story, not in a big way, not as a main character or anything, but
Just
yeah,
kind of
and then
threading through the
yeah,
story.
yeah, just as another sort of
Hmm.
miscellaneous character,
Hmm.
or you can apply some kind of meaning to the cat in some way, that adds to the story. Then I also have a picture book manuscript. I haven't tried to flog it or anything yet, but I have a picture book manuscript that is a poem, interestingly, about a cat and a mouse. It's called Murgatroyd and Mitzi, and an
Perfect.
unlikely friendship. So
Oh,
cats find not necessarily into visual arts, but definitely into the writing.
incredible.
Can I ask a question about the picture book? That's so interesting. If it's a poetry book, so it's just kind of like following along with one of your poems, and each one is kind of associated with an image, I suppose.
Well, yes, usually when you write a picture books are between 16 and 32 pages. You
Hmm.
don't generally find a picture book 8 pages, or a picture book 48 pages, although
Yeah.
you might find it for an older audience. And now I'm talking traditional publishing. If you're self-publishing, you can do whatever you want. Um, so it is in rhyme, which is not super popular right now in children's books. And if you're going to do rhyme, it has to be really powerful, strong, well constructed rhyme and rhythm. which I think I've done. I haven't done a final edit on it or anything. And then usually a publisher gets their own artist or illustrator to
Hmm.
support the story. You can, as you're known as a picture book creator, you can start to have both parts of that done. But most of the time, it's a different illustrator, and they interpret the story that's going on
Oh.
in the poem. So generally, you have minimal text on each page,
Hmm.
depending on who the story. I've got actually two manuscripts. One, the Murgatroyd and Mitzi is a very young picture book, and then the other one I have is based on haiku, so it's for an older audience, and so it's treated a tiny bit differently. But you usually have a little bit of text on each page with a supporting illustration, or one verse and then illustration, next verse illustration. It depends on the book designer and how they
Hmm.
put it together.
So from the sounds of it, you don't have a ton of input on the actual illustrations then as the writer?
Generally, in traditional publishing, no. Now,
Hmm.
I will qualify that if you are an illustrator, you have
Hmm.
not just, I don't just practice that. I've got credentials, and I've written a book. I can submit both, but generally speaking, they're two different objectives to creating the picture book. So you might have input in that. You might have a conversation with the artist about what you envision, but
Yeah.
generally speaking, it's out of the writer's hands. It's the artist then takes your text and interprets the text into the illustrations.
Interesting. Was that hard at all? Like knowing that like like you said, you might be able to like contact them or like have some conversations about what you envision, but I find I just thinking off the top of my head, I obviously haven't done it, but maybe I have this very specific image in my head for this one line that I wrote or this one page of text. Did you ever like find it difficult to, or
Well,
like you wanted to have more control of that in any way?
let me clarify. I haven't had anything published as a
Oh, no,
picture
no,
book.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But however, I think what it requires, it's kind of like the same relationship between a novel manuscript and an editor. You just have to trust that
Hmm.
everybody has the best product in mind, the best creative endpoint in mind, and that everybody's going to do their best. Now, I dabble in art, but there's no way I could do anything over the length of a picture book. So I can't do it in the same way that many illustrators can't do the writing. So you just sort of have to have faith in each other. But I think from what I've heard from other picture book writers, sometimes you get some input and sometimes you don't, and you just sort of go like that.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and everybody wants that to be a good product. So, nobody's out to sabotage you. So, you just have to have trust and faith in the other form of art
Hmm.
involved.
Cool. Thanks for that insight. I haven't really spoken to anyone who's kind of been going through that process. So
Mm,
All of your cats have touched your soul, but
they
sounds
have.
like Pico had a really special spot in your heart. Would you say that she did influence your creativity, or was she part of your process somehow?
Oh, I think so. I think, and I'll go back to that phrase I used. She provided what I would say is calming creativity. So she had to be with one of us, was either usually me or my husband. She had to be beside us or on our lap. So when I was working, there would be the time and it was when we had her, it was the years before laptops. You were on a big computer with the keyboard table that would pull out. She would wiggle herself in underneath the keyboard table, um, and just sort of sit there, and she would fall asleep, so she was warm, and there was that quiet, beautiful purr that they have as they sleep, and I think she had that calming effect on me. I think
Mm, mm,
I not I think I know she did. I know that
yeah.
pets can do that, and specifically Pico did for us. She just we had other cats
Mhm.
who were a little bit more, let's say, energetic,
hmm.
that
Hmm.
didn't quite have that same calming, but they had their own purpose, the playfulness that they exhibited. We had a brother sister team called Sandy and Danny, and Danny was a little more chill, and he was a huge cat. And his sister, Sandy, was a little furball. She was just a little thing, even grown. She was just little, and she had energy to kill. And so I think they brought a little bit more playfulness, a little bit more lightness to
Mhm.
the writing process. But I think if I had to pick a cat, I'd have to pick Pico as the calming influence, allowing me to sort of go into that zone that you go into as a writer.
Well, we've always had dogs, and I'm talking even before Rogan's time, but like my husband and I.
Last week.
And I begged to have a cat, but my husband was never really, not that he wasn't open to it, but he wasn't a cat person. He wasn't really even much of a dog person. I imposed all the animals on him. But finally, after several years of, come on, can we not have one cat? And he's like, aren't dogs enough? We get the cat, but she's a barn cat.
Oh, okay.
And whose cat is she? She's not mine. But I relate to what you're saying, like that calming creativity. She lays on Gary and he won't move. He allows her to just lay there and he'll just, oh, I can't do the dishes, can't do anything because the
I have
cat's
the
on my
cat.
chest.
I have the cat. And like rats, cats can have a bad reputation too. And thank you
Uh-huh.
very much to Disney World and the two cats from, what was that show? Uh the two Siamese cats with
Yes, I
the two
see it.
dogs that fell in Lady and the Tramp.
Lady in the Tramp.
And but cats, like dogs, like rats, maybe the only exception would be fish. I don't really know because I've never really had any unusual pets. They have to be socialized. They have to be used to your to being touched, to following rules, to following orders, to know when they've stepped outside. Like they're like toddlers in a lot of way. And so
Mhm.
you have to socialize them. And but it's different than children because you don't feel the same heavy responsibility with pets as you do with children. And so you can kind of enjoy their naughtiness a little bit differently. But they do definitely have to be socialized. They're not going to behave on their own.
No, that's correct. So, what are you working on now? Or are you working on a special project? Or maybe you're
I've
taking a
got a
break?
couple of I got a couple of things on the go. I
Mm-hmm.
have, and where a lot of my poetry has fallen, is I've started doing zines. I'm not sure if you are familiar with what a zine is. It's
Yes.
basically a do-it-yourself publication. It's not
Okay.
fancy. It's usually photocopied, printed. It's not you can be very ornate. It can be very simple. It can be very pamphlet-y, or it can be longer. I teach with a seniors creative writing group, and actually, we just had the launch of their first zine last Wednesday. I compiled some of their work and I made some choices, and then I had to format and do everything and then print it. And
Uh-huh.
so I got into that. So I thought, well, I can do this just for me. So I have this zine underway, and it's titled Loosed Leaves. It's all tea poetry. And interestingly enough, cats have found its way into the tea poetry. So I've got that going, and I have another picture book manuscript that I'm working on. It's haiku and senryu of birds,
Mhm.
drawing a parallel between the daily life of a bird and a human daily life. So, the wake up, the going to work, all those things,
Right.
supported with a small bit of prose to give information about a particular bird that's profiled in the haiku. But my biggest project is the third young adult novel. The first one is the one you're familiar with, Holly, The Stones of Burren Bay, that came out with Latitude 46 in 2024. And I have since written a second, and I see this as a series, but not a typical series where you have a repeating character or a repeating location. It's a repeating theme. So in The Stones of Burren Bay, the protagonist was a budding artist who realized it was through her art that she could cope with the trauma and grief and guilt of what she had gone through. So that feeds through the story. In the second book that's on submission right now, the protagonist's a little older. She's in her last year of high school, and poetry was the thing that was going to help her manage her emotions through very difficult times. And now I'm on a third one where music is sort of the central aspect of it. And it's through music. And I think you might have heard some of the first chapter way back in that
Yes, I did.
retreat. It's changed a little bit,
Okay.
but it's three timelines, and it looks at women and girls and these notions of motherhood and womanhood, and how some people will have you believe it's very simple. Girls just grow up, they want to be mothers, they become mothers, and everything's fabulous. And that's just not the case. There's all kinds of things that can intervene and that will change or help a woman to decide, or a girl to decide, whether or not she's going to have a child. So it deals with a lot of pretty heavy issues. And actually, that's the book I would like to have that strand of cats going through, from the
Yeah.
sort of the more barn cat who works for a living, keeping mice out of the house, all the way to the 1988 cat that really has become a complete member of the family. So I think I'm going to. I've been researching a little bit on. It sort of came up through the history because I've had those three distinct historical times, and I thought, I wonder what pets were like in 1898, and they weren't quite the
Yes.
same thing as we experience now. So that
No,
those are
they're part of our families now, and
yeah, yeah,
they're members of the family, and not that they weren't 50 years ago, but I think they did have a different role,
they did. And we
especially dogs.
also we also
Mhm.
had a different attitude about them because,
Yes.
cats today have their own doctor. Some of them have their own babysitter. Some of them have
Therapists.
there's people who clean them and brush them and cut their nails. And, but I can remember back to that first cat I told you about earlier, Troubles. Troubles only got cleaned by anybody before we took him to the vet to have him neutered, because he was, as my mother would say, he was catting around, and I'm sure he left kittens all over the neighborhood. And, that's just how it was back then. And so
Yeah.
it's very, very different now with our pets than it was back in the day. So I think that would be an interesting sort of little mini
Mhm.
sideline to follow through those three
Mhm.
timelines. Just a source of levity, maybe, in a pretty heavy kind of story.
And like the three timelines alone sounds fascinating, and the story, of course, but to have that tiny thread of
Yeah.
the cat just lightens it a bit, perhaps, if you're going into some darker points.
All kinds of stuff happening to these three
Okay.
protagonists. But I also think that if I can portray a cat accurately for the time in history, that grounds it as well, grounds each era, feels authentic. I can't be talking necessarily about a cat in 1898 who goes to a vet on a regular basis, and that,
No.
because if that happened at all, it was only the farm vet and only wealthy people who could have anything done with these animals, right? So I
Mhm.
think it gives you another point to have some authenticity in the story too.
Mhm. A random question about process. I love stories with like a bunch of different point of views, timelines, like you're doing. So I'm just curious. Do you have a plan for how you're going to approach that? Are you going to write one timeline and then the other one, or is it more of like a bouncing around them, following a character at a time, or still like figuring it out?
You do have to have a plan, and so my
Hmm.
plan was what I did was I created each of the protagonists' story arc. So
Hmm.
we start here, this happens, that happens, this happens, and this is how it's going to resolve. I did that for each of the three protagonists in each of the three different timelines. And then I thought I had to make a decision. Am I just going to write each of their stories and then do this with them?
Hmm.
And I just thought if I did that, what I would be missing is how they weave, because I would have to really work that at some point to weave those stories together. So what I started to do is the first 3 chapters, the first chapter is an introduction to the 1898 character. The second is the introduction to the 1955 character. And the third is the introduction to the 1988 character. So I can set up a little bit of backstory, a little bit of how are those 3 characters connected, because they are. Plus, it's magical realism. So that thread of magical realism had to be established in those first 3 chapters. And then I'm just alternating, not necessarily, keeping that first one, second one, third one. I'm just going to alternate the point of view for most of them. What that allows you to do is, for example, in the first chapter, there's a murder at the end of the chapter. And because I'm not going to continue that the next chapter, I can really create some tension and some, keeping your character moving forward so they can find out. And they're thinking, oh, I wonder when she's going to go back to that, So it helps to create some tension and conflict. And we'll see how that goes. I know where I'm going. I know what my themes are, and I know what I heard one writer say, my isness. I know what my isness is. I know what the is of the story is. And then it's about layering. Like, nobody writes it once and they're done, right? So you write it once and then you can layer it. And that might involve some movement and shifting, but you can't do any of that fine tuning until you have it all out in front of you. So
For sure. Yeah.
So
cool. Thanks
Do
for
you
sharing.
have a goal date, Emily, for this novel?
I'm hoping to get the first draft done by spring.
Okay.
But and I think I can. If I do, I think this will be the fastest I've ever written anything, because although I had that first chapter prepared for fall of 2024, I didn't go back to it again until fall of this year, so 2025. So I've written the bulk of it since September. What I've written started in September. So if I can get the first draft done by spring, that will be a huge accomplishment. So I'm hoping. We shall see.
To be continued.
Yes, exactly. To be continued.
I'll be a beta reader.
You could be. You could be.
Emily, would you be so kind as to read some of your cat poetry for us before we close out the episode?
How about I'm going to read you one that was written for Pico.
Sounds appropriate.
I found this thing called, it's got a few names. The Thai name is Tamra Meow, not meow, meow, which translates into basically a treatise of cats. It's a cat book of poems, but what it really is are the breed standards for Burmese, your Siamese. It was the actual breed standards, but they were written into poetry form. So I found this and I thought, oh, that's interesting. That's what actually triggered this poem about Pico. And in Asian cultures, the notion of the title is The Auspicious One. And the notion of being auspicious means lucky or fortunate. So, and we do feel very fortunate to have had Pico. So how about if I read that one? It's one of the longer ones, but it's not super long. And
Perfect.
it's called the Auspicious One. Her coat, luxurious Thai Pico, the soft underside of a tea leaf, rich dark brown of peppercorns, swaths of creamy coconut milk flowing through and around her sleekness. Of Ayuthaya, her almond-shaped eyes salon blue, stare quizzically, piercing, alluring, while fine bones and muscle swish and ripple, revealing her slender haunches, delicate toes. Long-necked like her mother and her mother's mother, tall legs of a champion and grand like her father and grandfather, she is well-bred, but really just an ordinary cat, our Pico, and your average cup of tea. Pico is actually a word that refers to the underside of a tea leaf, which is, if you can imagine, how some leaves, when they're young, how they've got sort of filaments underneath and they're soft. That's what the word Pico means.
I didn't know that. I drink orange Pico every day.
Yes. Well, now you
There
know.
you go. Now I know.
It's even though it's black tea, it's orange Pico is. that's a description that they've incorporated into the name. Yeah,
Hmm.
so
Well,
that's
that was lovely. Yeah.
That
my
was so
Pico.
lovely. I'm missing our cat now.
I
Oh,
am too, kind of, and I've only been away for 2 days.
yeah. You got no reason to complain.
No, that's true,
I'm
that's true.
joking.
What
I'm
kind of
waiting for
cat
the
do you have, Rogan?
Oh, okay. So we've my mom said, we've grown up with dogs our entire life. And even with dogs, I am so terrible with breeds. So I actually don't know. I just know him
Oh,
as my Willow. Do you know, Mom?
Oh, like, yeah, and when
Willow.
he says his
Yeah.
cat, he doesn't have a cat presently,
Sorry.
like, it's
Yeah.
the cat that's at our house, but she's a
oh,
tabby, I
okay.
guess? A gray tabby? I think
Great
that's
Happy. Yeah.
I don't even know my cats, but I'm waiting for the day that I show up here, and Rogan's gonna have a kitten in here, I
It's
just know
gonna
it.
happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Here, the
yeah.
thing is, so yeah, we had dogs growing up the whole time, but as soon as we got Willow, the cat, I feel like I immediately shifted over towards being a cat person, at least a little bit more. And because
Mhm.
I live in a big city, if I decide to stay here, I think a cat might be a bit more suitable, just because there's not as much space. But even then, I like to have more space for the cat to explore, roam around. So I'm hesitant until maybe I leave and get a bit more space. So
Yeah,
until then, I go home and
and a
enjoy.
little more stable in terms of your location, because I know our
Yeah.
cats, none of our cats traveled well. None that whole
Hmm.
list, none of them traveled well. I'm very jealous of people who have cats that they put in the carrier and they go to sleep. None of them travel well. So, if you're going back and forth, if you're going home, you always have to find something arrangement for them, and difficult if you don't have somebody close by who can check in on your cat. So I
Mhm.
For
appreciate
sure.
having that.
Emily, thank you for sharing everything about Pico and all of the others as well of your writing process. We can't wait to read the next novel and hear more about your work. I've gotten to know you even better, and so yeah, just warms my heart. Will you come back when your book
Sure.
is out?
I would love to. When I've nailed the cats through the timelines,
Oh my gosh.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk
And
about
when
that.
we're done here, I'm hoping we'll stay on together and you can show me this knitted
Oh,
project
you
because I am a knitter and I am
okay.
curious as to what this looks like. So
Okay, I will go get her.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'll be sure to post all of your socials and where readers can find you as well. And yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
So, Holly, that's
Rogan.
so weird sometimes. Holly, mother,
Rogan.
I see you're not wearing a flannel, and I need to report you. What are you
Show's
wearing?
over.
Show's over. Canceled.
Today was a big day. And I'm feeling it. I am tired, but there's a good reason
Mm-hmm.
for that. I haven't
Mm-hmm.
done this in, gosh,
It's
several
at least a
years.
decade for me, I think. I think.
What were you, 5?
Yeah.
Um, we ran in the Holly Jolly Fun Run
Whoa. So fun.
in the big city. So,
So fun. So run.
of course, I got t-shirts made and mine is red with green. And on the front, it has a little bit of our name in there, Got Guts. And on the back, mine says, she's Holly. And Rogan
And
said,
he's jolly.
get it?
I think I'm a fairly jolly person. I'll take that. After I wake up, after like a 3-hour
Yeah.
buffer, then I start to
Yeah.
become a human again.
Around 8 p.m. That's when you find your
Yeah, around
groove.
8 p.m. I finally wake up fully, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's do this.
When I'm going to bed.
Yeah. So
It,
that's why you're not wearing a flannel. It's okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We literally just got back from the run. And what an incredible experience. It
It was,
was,
I knew there were
go
going to be
ahead.
outfits and stuff. This is part of the Santa Claus parade that happens in the city. I think we kind of like open it up at the runners, and then the parade follows behind us, if I'm not wrong.
Uh-huh.
And so I knew people were going to be dressed up, but like people dressed up. So there
Oh
was
my.
inflated Santa suits, which like props to you because I don't know how the heck you ran in that. There's an inflated Olaf from Frozen. There were so many Buddy the Elves. What's your favorite color? And we had our shirts. Went with some coworkers. They had some stuff too, hats and skirts, and it was so fun just to see everyone's costume. I mean,
So as I was gasping for air, all I could think of was, how is this woman in front of me in a full-on suit running?
Yeah, like Christmas ugly sweaters, like the heavy ones with lights and stuff built into them.
Like,
oh
good
my
for
God.
them. And we had toques on.
Yeah. Like,
That
and
said
it's one of those
Holly
awkward.
Jolly.
That said Holly Jolly. It's one of those awkward times to run where it's like kind of getting pretty cold. Like, it could have been colder. It was still a lovely day, but like, so you do need to layer up, but then 5 minutes into your run, you're dying a little bit. Like, oh my God, please, someone get this woolen sweater off of me. We did a New Year's Eve run forever ago. This might have been my last one, I think. Do you remember that?
I do, and it was my last run.
And that was back up north. So like snow everywhere. New Year's Eve. That was tough. That was cold.
That was tough because it was icy. It was dangerous.
People were falling.
You're forever watching your footing.
Yeah.
But today was incredible. And I mean, I can't sum it up in just a few words, but I will try. As I was running, I call it the tortoise and the hare because I was at the front of the line when Rogan said, "Oh no, Mom, I'll just hang out in the back." And of course he passed me, which was fine. I expected that, but he's half my age. But all I could think of was the support. There were thousands of people out today, and there were little kids high-fiving us as we ran through, and I just kept going. I did stop twice, which I permitted myself, and that's a step in the right direction for my competitive edge. But it's the support that really makes me emotional during these runs, because it also reminds me, like, slow down, Holly. This is just for fun. And I don't know. It was just an incredible feeling. And normally, like, big crowds, that's not really my thing. But there was a pulse in the city today, and an energy that is contagious, for sure.
A holly jolly energy. And it was kind of entertaining because we all got the same toque, and the toques had like the red and white stripes on them. And so you see the crowd of runners in front of you, and it really did feel like you were in a Where's Waldo photo. It was incredible. It was really funny.
We walked onto the streetcar, looked behind us, and there was probably 20 other of these
half the streetcar was wearing the toque.
The streetcar. That was so much fun. And now our energy is fading.
I am going to take a nap.
Yes.
I'm not ashamed to say that.
I agree. This is when I wish caffeine took me to another level, but it doesn't.
It just
so
maintains.
I'll have lasagna instead. Because Emily mentioned rigatoni, pasta.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
I love those names so much. That was incredible.
Incredible. All right. Well, thanks for another great episode, Rogan. What an incredible day. You are an inspiration to your mother. I watched you run ahead of me, and I was so proud.
Listen, I knew you'd gone ahead, and my goal was like, okay, because I get my competitive edge from you, I think. I was like, okay, I am going to find her, maybe run with her for a bit, and then eventually pass her. I'm not ashamed to admit. He didn't
run with me. He just passed me.
No, because you went so far ahead. I thought maybe you were like a couple rows of people ahead, or like I thought I'd catch up to you by like kilometer 1. I only caught up to you after I think kilometer 3. It was a 5K. And so I was like, oh my God, how far ahead did she go? I'm not going to catch up to her. And so by the time that I finally found you, I was like, okay, I'll say hi. And I kept going because
So does that say something for how slow I was or how fast you were?
I was pushing it because I thought I was going to catch up to you like pretty quickly. And so I started off at like a really high pace to catch up to you. And I maintained it while I was trying to find you, and I didn't find you. So I'm pretty tired now, but
as am I.
No, I'm just happy that you could do this with me because you were the reason I got into running in the first place. We did a bunch of races and stuff when I was growing up. My favorite one was when I was 14. We did the 10K, also in Toronto. although I didn't live here at this point. It was the zoo run, and it was a similar thing where people were dressed up. That was a 10K. That was a bit longer, but people were dressed up still in onesies and like animal outfits and stuff. And so it was kind of a similar energy. But this one, because it was part of the parade, like you said, people were outside high-fiving kids and people are cheering you on. I mean, they were there for the parade probably, but still it was great to have them for us too.
But they made us feel like we were pretty important too.
They did.
They were cheering us on.
I don't think I've ever had that in a run before. Like, there was a crowd the whole way through.
Yeah, that is true. There was a crowd from the very start to the very finish.
Very unique experience.
Yes, and I do remember that zoo run. That was so much fun running through all the animals.
That was one of my last ones too.
Yeah.
That was like my peak, my only 10K.
We're going to do 10K in the spring?
We are? Oh, God, we are.
New t-shirts coming your way.
Can't wait.
All right. Thanks, Rogan. You're the best.
Thanks so much. Catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.